get a go-ahead. Andres? Andres, can you give us a sign when we are ready to start?
Keep the mask always? Or?
No, just until you start to speak.
Okay.
I didn't look at the mirror.
We are.
Maria said you need to be.
Apparently this is already live.
This is already live? Okay.
Ja.
Hij krijgt me alleen met een enorme echo binnen, dus hij deed dat nieuws deed.
Okay, then let's get started. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome from the European Medicines Agency at the EMA building in Amsterdam. Virtual press. Today, our Human Medicines Committee, the CHMP, recommended a conditional marketing authorization for the first COVID-19 vaccine for the EU market. This is a significant milestone in the fight against the pandemic, and we are here today to give you some background about the assessment of this vaccine, how the vaccine works, and how we will monitor the safety of the vaccine in the coming months and years. My name is Marie-Agnes Heine, and I'm the head of EMA's Communication Department. I'm delighted to have with me Emer Cook, EMA's Executive Director. EMA took office about a month ago and will talk about the tremendous effort by EMA and national authorities in member states to accelerate the assessment of this vaccine and the agency's commitment to ensure a robust assessment of all vaccines and therapeutics that are submitted to EMA. We also have with us Dr. Harald Ensmann, the chair of EMA's Human Medicines Committee, CHMP, who led the evaluation and can provide you with details of the assessment of this specific vaccine and the data that allowed the committee to recommend the vaccine for marketing authorization. And we also have Dr. Sabine Strauss, the chair of EMA's Safety Committee, or PRAC, who will tell you more about the safety of the COVID-19 vaccine and about the measures that are being taken to ensure a continuous monitoring of the vaccine and possible side effects as long as it is used in Europe. I'm also very pleased to introduce Dr. Marco Cavalieri. He is the chair of EMA's COVID-19 Pandemic Task Force and can provide you with further technical detail if needed. Before we start, I want to explain how we plan to run this press briefing. Please note that your microphone is disabled by default for the duration of the press briefing. We will first hear short remarks by Mrs. Cook, Dr. Ensmann and Dr. Strauss, and after that we have 30 minutes for questions. Once the question and answer session starts, please raise your hand by WebEx if you want to ask a question. To raise your hand, you will find an icon next to your name in the list of participants. When I will give you the floor, you will see a prompt on your screen to unmute yourself. We would appreciate if you could turn on your camera when you are asking a question. Today's briefing is being broadcast via YouTube and Europe by satellite. The footage can be used free of charge by all media. You will find the respective links in the invite sent to you. As we just have 45 minutes for today's briefing, without further ado, I will now hand over to Emer Cook. Emer, please take the floor.
Thank you very much, Marie-Agnes. And good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am delighted to be here and to announce that EMA's Scientific Committee met today and recommended a conditional marketing authorization in the EU for the vaccine developed by BioNTech and Pfizer. The recommendation is to prevent COVID-19 in people from 16 years of age. Our scientific opinion paves the way for a first marketing authorization of a COVID-19 vaccine in the EU with the corresponding safeguards, controls and obligations. It will be valid in all 27 member states at the same time, and it provides them with a firm scientific foundation for the rollout of their vaccination programmes and a continuing framework for control and supervision of the vaccines. It is a significant step forward in our fight against this pandemic, which is causing suffering and hardship for so many people, not just in Europe, but all over the world. This is really a historic scientific achievement. Within less than a year, a vaccine will have been developed and authorised against a new disease. This is the result of unparalleled mobilisation and sharing of information between scientists, industry, regulators, healthcare professionals, patient representatives and public health bodies across the globe. The combined global manpower has enabled the development timeframe to be compressed, while at the same time enabling robust scientific studies to be done. As medicines regulators, we have forged strong bonds with our sister agencies in other regions of the world, and under the umbrella of the International Coalition of Medicines Regulatory Authorities, we have led the global efforts to streamline regulatory requirements for vaccine development so as to facilitate their development and approval. Today, I would like to celebrate and acknowledge the tremendous and tireless work behind the scenes of a very high number of experts from all EU member states and my colleagues in the EMA who have been involved in the review of this vaccine. I have said several times that we have been working around the clock. I receive emails at all hours of the day and night, and some of our meetings have been held at weekends. Since the onset of this pandemic, EMA and the network of competent authorities in the EU member states have set up an agile infrastructure with a pandemic task force, the COVID ETF, bringing together all the best expertise to facilitate fast decision-making by our scientific committees, and in particular the Human Medicines Committee, which has now recommended the vaccine, and also the Safety Committee, the Pharmacovigilance and Risk Assessment Committee. Our experts engaged early in a dialogue with developers, and in October, EMA started to evaluate data on the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine in what we call a rolling review, a practice whereby data is reviewed on an iterative basis as it becomes available while development is still ongoing. The companies then submitted a formal marketing authorisation application on the 1st of December. Our experts have worked tirelessly to reach a robust science-based consensus which from the start of the rolling review until the final CHMP today has been achieved in just 11 weeks, when we would usually expect to spend a year or more. But this time frame has been facilitated by the size of the trial and the strength of the evidence, but also by the responsiveness of everyone involved: scientists, experts, project managers, and of course the company itself. But let me say this very clearly. While we have taken every step to expedite our evaluation processes, ensuring vaccine safety has been our number one priority. These vaccines will be given to millions of people in the EU, and we are keenly aware of the huge responsibility we have to get these recommendations right for European citizens. In the last few months, EMA has seen the intense debates taking place in the public arena, while some calling for a speedier approval, while others were concerned that development was going too fast to ensure safety. We at EMA have kept our steer, and we've been guided by the strength of the scientific evidence and nothing else. Our conclusion, which relies on the data from clinical trials in over 40,000 participants and takes into account additional data even received this weekend, is that the vaccine meets the rigorous EU standards for safety, efficacy and quality, and is manufactured to high pharmaceutical standards. The evidence convincingly shows that the benefits are greater than the risks of the vaccine, and the CHMP chair, Dr. Ensman, will explain our evaluation in more detail. But our work does not stop here. We will continue to collect and analyse data to ensure that use of the vaccine is always based on the most up-to-date evidence. The conditional marketing authorisation provides for an agreed plan with specific and legally binding obligations to ensure that additional data continues to be generated and submitted to EMA after approval. It also guarantees that the safety of a medicine is rigorously monitored across the EU through the pharmacovigilance system. The chair of our safety committee, Dr. Sabine Strauss, will explain the steps taken to ensure safety of these vaccines, including the steps for reinforced continuous close monitoring of the safety that is being put in place for all COVID-19 vaccines. We recognise that vaccines will only help in the fight against COVID-19 if citizens have enough confidence in our authorisation to get vaccinated. We owe citizens transparency so they can make up their minds about the vaccine based on facts. We will publish extensive information on our website on the details of our assessments, and we will also make public all the clinical data that we have assessed in the application, which will allow for further independent scrutiny within the scientific community. I'm sure you're aware that we organised a public meeting on the 11th of December to explain to the public how we are evaluating and monitoring COVID-19 vaccines and to hear directly from European citizens about their needs and concerns. The opinion that we give today is a first step. We will need more vaccines to cover the needs not only of Europeans but for all global citizens who are suffering as a result of this pandemic. We will continue to play our part in fulfilling these needs. We have been interacting with other developers of other COVID-19 vaccines, but also with developers of possible treatments that are still under development. Some of these are likely to come to EMA at the start of next year. As pleased as I am to announce this recommendation today, we are not yet at a turning point in this pandemic. It will take time to roll out vaccines in sufficiently large numbers to enable all our citizens to be protected and the infection to be suppressed to the greatest extent possible. We know a lot more about this disease now than we knew 10 months ago, even more than we knew 3 months ago, but there is still new information coming in, and this needs to be fully assessed. Such as the recent reports on the new variant, and these are issues that need to be fully scientifically assessed. At the moment, we can say that there is no evidence to suggest that the vaccine will not work against the new variant of the coronavirus. In the meantime, we must all do our bit to prevent the spread of the disease. Follow the advice of your health authorities. Wear masks, wash your hands and maintain distance. Vaccines alone will not be the silver bullet that will allow us to return to normal life. But the authorisation of this first vaccine is definitely a major step in the right direction and an indication that 2021 can be brighter than 2020. Thank you very much.
Many thanks, Emer. I will now give the floor to Dr. Harald Ensmann, the chair of the CHMP. Harald, please.
Yeah, thank you, Maria Eckers, and good afternoon, everyone. The evaluation of this first COVID-19 vaccine in the European Union ended today with a positive opinion adopted by CHMP, Committee for Medicinal Products and News. I have the honor and pleasure to chair. This positive CHMP opinion is the result of a collective effort across the whole European Union. In both committees, at CHMP and at EMA Safety Committees in Prague, all the European Union member states and Norway and Iceland for the European Economic Area come together and work together. And for this special procedure here, these two committees had valuable support. We worked side by side with EMA's COVID-19 task force, a group of experts selected by the agency exactly for this task. Now, our experts of all committees of the task force have assessed the classical triad efficacy, safety, and pharmaceutical quality. And this means the benefit-risk balance does not consider only safety and efficacy, but also the pharmaceutical quality of the vaccine. Considers how it is manufactured and controlled according to our high pharmaceutical standards. The committee has been fully aware how crucial it is that this product can be produced on a large scale in a reasonable time and in accordance with our pharmaceutical standards. The crucial data on efficacy and safety are from the main clinical trial, a large randomized study that enrolled over 43,000 people. And you know already the results. 95 fewer cases of people developing symptomatic COVID-19 among those who received the vaccine compared with those who received placebo. In both groups, the vaccine and the placebo group, there were about 18,000 people, and there were 8 cases in the vaccine group and 162 cases in the placebo group. With 8 to 162, I think a rather clear result. Based on this, and after very carefully reviewing all the data available and after getting additional clarification from the companies on several aspects that come up, there was consensus among the members of the HMP that the indication applied for by Pfizer and BioNTech is acceptable, that the benefits of the vaccine outweigh the risks in people aged 16 years or older. How did we get there? As with any innovative medicine, CHMP selected 2 committee members with their assessment teams from the network of the European Union national competent authorities. Those are the rapporteur and the co-rapporteur. This selection process of rapporteur and co-rapporteur allows CHMP to deploy the best available expertise in the whole of the European Union for this procedure. The rapporteur from Sweden and the co-rapporteur from France, with their teams, provided then 2 parallel and independent assessments. And these 2 parallel and independent reports were the starting points for the committee's work. CHMP members in the end based their conclusions on the benefit-risk balance of the vaccine developed by Pfizer and BioNTech, on these 2 detailed and comprehensive assessments of the data. And allow me here now to thank the rapporteur and their 2 teams of experts who have assessed this vaccine. They have reviewed an enormous amount of data related to safety, efficacy, and quality. To give you just some illustration about the amount of data, in the old days, when marketing authorization applications were made on paper, this would have been a truckload, literally. Something like 5-6 euro per case. Fully assessing this, in this time frame, required outstanding teamwork of clinical assessors, non-clinical experts, assessors of pharmaceutical quality, statisticians, methodologists, and last but not least, the guidance and support by the grant management at the 2 national competent authorities in Sweden and France, and at EMA in Amsterdam. Allow me very shortly to highlight a few details regarding the target population, the indication of this vaccine. Unlike many other vaccines, for COVID-19, the protection of persons with higher age or comorbidities is of particular interest. It is those who carry a major share of the burden of disease who are most at risk, who suffer most. Normally, when a medicine is developed, we are used to getting less data for older age groups. In the case of this vaccine here, these populations were indeed studied, we had over 1,600 persons over the age of 75 in the study, each in the vaccine and in the placebo group. And therefore, we were able to determine that the benefits significantly outweigh the risks also in this elderly population. In the trial, 95% efficacy rate was seen in the elderly and in the people with higher risk of severe COVID-19 as in the overall population. And I think it is quite important, and that's why I took the time for that, to realize we have these convincing data for this group with the highest need for a vaccination. On the other hand, of course, the current indication includes a lower age limit of 16 years. For children under 16, we have agreed a pediatric investigation plan with the company close to this group. Pregnant women is another population of particular interest. There is no evidence for unacceptable risks. Not from non-clinical studies and not from the very, very limited clinical experience. Nevertheless, we have data only on very few single-digit numbers of pregnant women in each group, both in the vaccine and in the placebo group. That means there were simply not enough pregnant women in the trial population to draw firm conclusions. Therefore, we recommend for pregnant women a case-by-case decision based on the individual situation, considering the risk of exposure, the risk of infection, and the individual risk factors for severe disease. Finally, we, the committees, all who worked on this, know very well that the speed with which these vaccines were developed and authorized is a cause of concern for many Europeans. I would like to reassure you that the data we have analyzed and our assessment of the data have met the standards for robustness and quality that we have set out. In fact, the main trial for this vaccine is one of the largest trials we have ever evaluated for a vaccine. Nevertheless, even being a very large trial, it still is a conditional marketing authorization. Why? Because there are things left to do. There are still areas where we will need further information, and the conditional marketing authorization enables us to impose follow-up obligations and require the company to submit this data. For example, we don't know yet whether this vaccine not only prevents the disease, but also the infection with the virus. That means we don't know whether it happens that vaccinated persons may have no symptoms, may not be ill, but may still carry the virus for some time, and therefore be infectious, may infect others. The clinical trial, the big clinical trial continues, so we will get more data and more information on this issue further down the road. But until we know, the recommendation, Emma Cook already mentioned, remains. Even after successful completion of vaccination, please wear masks, wash your hands, and maintain your distance whenever you can. And we need, of course, more knowledge about the pregnant women. As we have data on so few pregnant women at the moment, both in the vaccine and the placebo group, we have now put in place measures that will allow us to fill this knowledge gap. We will have a proactive surveillance system so that we can capture every bit of information on the use of this vaccine in pregnancy, so that we can refine our recommendation as soon as possible, if necessary. But with that, I'm already trespassing in the responsibility and in the particular expertise of the PRAC. As this, what I just mentioned, is just one of the many safety measures we have taken to ensure that this vaccine is tightly monitored as it's rolled out to millions of citizens in the European Union. You will want to know more about these safety measures, and Sabine Strauss, the chair of the Pharmacovigilance Risk Assessment Committee, the PRAC, will explain this much better than I ever could. With that, thank you, and I'm happy to leave the floor to our moderator.
Many thanks, Harald. And I now give immediately the floor to Dr. Sabine Strauss, who is the chair of our Safety Committee, Prague. Sabine, please.